Picture a nation teetering on the edge, its economy gutted by a dictator's reckless vendetta. In 1972, Uganda's Idi Amin unleashed a decree that would shatter lives and plunge a country into chaos. The expulsion of over 50,000 South Asians, branded as enemies of the state. Among them was a young academic, Mahmood Mamdani, Zohran Mamdani's father, forced to flee the only home he'd ever known. Fast forward to today, and Zohran Mamdani, now a New York State Assemblyman and Democratic mayoral candidate, stands at a podium in the heart of America, preaching a gospel of socialism. He calls for defunding police departments in crime-ridden neighborhoods and redistributing wealth from the productive to the idle. He frames his ideas as justice, but history remembers them as destruction. Because this playbook isn't new. It's the same one used by Uganda's brutal dictator, Idi Amin, the man who quite literally kicked Mamdani's family out of the country. Amin, a military dictator who ruled Uganda from 1971 to 1979, accused the South Asian minority, mostly Indians and Pakistanis, of hoarding wealth, exploiting Africans, and refusing to integrate. He called them bloodsuckers and, in a chilling nod, referred to them as the Jews of Africa. With just 90 days to leave, families like Mamdani's were stripped of businesses, homes, and belongings, allowed to take only $120 in cash and $600 worth of possessions. At the time, Uganda's South Asian community contributed nearly 90% of the country's tax revenue. Their departure crippled the state overnight. Skilled labor vanished, businesses shuttered, government income evaporated, and what was already a fragile post-colonial economy collapsed into chaos. Fairness never came, only famine, corruption, and violence. Amin exploited these tensions, promising to give Uganda back to ethnic Ugandans. But this socialist-inspired purge didn't empower the masses. It obliterated the economy. Between 1972 and 1979, Uganda's manufacturing output plummeted from 740 million to 254 million shillings. Skilled workers vanished, businesses collapsed, and the nation spiraled into further poverty and chaos. Amin's vision of redistribution was a catastrophic failure, a lesson in what happens when success is vilified and productivity punished. And here's the twist. Decades later, in a position of power in New York State Assembly, Mamdani is pushing for the very same kind of ideology that destroyed his family's homeland. He's calling for taxing rich, white neighborhoods. It's a narrative that plays well with the radical activists, but not with people who remember what actually happens when you punish the productive. Let's be clear, socialism fails not because it dreams too big, but because it crushes the very people who make progress possible. You cannot build a nation by taxing innovation out of existence. You cannot run a city by making police the enemy. And you cannot build opportunity by handing out free money. And remember, billionaires aren't billionaires because they have a mountain of cash sitting in the bank. Most of their wealth is tied to the valuation of companies that employ thousands, fund pensions, and drive entire industries. Today, Mamdani plays a similar game in the American context. He weaponizes race, he blames systems, he stirs resentment, and all the while he proposes the same failed solutions that once turned his family into refugees. Mamdani's own upbringing was anything but humble. Born into privilege, he was raised by global elites. His mother, Mira Nair, is an award-winning filmmaker. His father is a multimillionaire. Zohran has openly admitted, saying, "I never had to want for something." Mamdani's Muslim identity has also become a defining element in his public persona, and a source of growing controversy. His refusal to condemn the phrase "globalize the intifada" has drawn sharp criticism from both political opponents and members of the public. In a June 2025 appearance on the Bulwark podcast, Mamdani defended the slogan as an expression of a desperate desire for equality. But paired with his 2019 rap lyrics praising the Holy Land Five, individuals convicted of funneling $12 million to Hamas, critics argue that Mamdani is not merely tone-deaf, but appears to tacitly legitimize Muslim-led political violence, using his identity as both shield and sword against scrutiny. His father, Mahmood, has also contributed to this shockingly controversial legacy. In his 2004 book, Good Muslim, Bad Muslim, Mahmood framed jihad as a response to global inequality and Western imperialism, portraying it not as an inherent threat, but as a consequence of global injustice. His writings often blur the line between analysis and rationalization, and nowhere is this more evident than in his 2008 article for the London Review of Books. There, he characterizes Idi Amin's mass expulsion of Ugandan's South Asian community as a moment when Ugandans experienced true independence. Mahmood's past defenses of figures like Robert Mugabe, who violently seized land from white farmers in Zimbabwe, further underscore a worldview that treats the destruction of the privileged as a moral victory, even when the outcome is national ruin. The real reason the Mamdanis were kicked out of Uganda wasn't because of colonialism or capitalism. It was because a jealous regime couldn't tolerate success, and turned on the very people holding the nation together. And now, the son of that exiled family is walking down the same ideological path. Only this time, it's not Uganda that's at risk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. See you next time.